Welcome to a very special edition, episode 50 of the Town End podcast. A great news on Saturday morning to wake up to in Chicago. Back in the dock, Stevie O'Donnell is home. Joining me today is Chris and Gally. Lads, brilliant news, isn't it?
Is my microphone working, lads? Just want to double check.
I was worried there for a second. We hadn't done this in so long, lads. I nearly forgot what buttons to press.
I felt like we were going to jump on a pod and say, put in your suggestions for who was going to be manager, or whoever got it right was going to win a pizza.
Does Stevie O'Donnell automatically get a pizza, by the way?
I think we have.
Yeah, we'll sort him out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great just to get that over the line, though, isn't it? It's one of those things. It's, you know, we know it's done and dusted, but then there's formalities that needed to be sorted, and it just seemed to drag on. And then you're looking at clubs re-signing players and signing half of our team, and you're just thinking, God, we need to just get somebody in here and start steadying the ship and get players who want to play under that management system. And I think that's just key that's finally happened.
Yeah, it's like it's been like it's only been what have we been? We only waiting really a couple of weeks. It's only been 3 weeks or something, but I mean, it felt like
a lifetime.
And that's what it is. It's an absolute lifetime. Like, especially when you know what's coming. It'd be different if we were still interviewing for the job. We said, right, they'll get it right eventually. But we kind of, you know, the talk was around pretty much. It was almost the day before the cup final. Really, this was getting talked about. But it's just been waiting so long. I mean, and now, like you said, the worst part was it's not the waiting for the manager. Is the player signed? Has there been talk behind the scenes? I'm sure there has. We've watched players go. You know, we've heard during the week, nothing confirmed yet, but we've heard Keith Ward's come in. You hear rumours of players re-signing, but now you're hoping that they have re-signed on the back of knowing that maybe Stephen was coming in, and you know, it lets everybody relax. You have club shop opening today. All right, it's not in the marshes, but you know, it's a payoff way to kickstart the weekend and the 2 weeks build up to Christmas, and it's finally done. And you can just tell by Twitter. You scroll your phone. My phone's just, you know, it's just constant now for the next 20 minutes.
Isn't it?
It's just hopping. It's mad, and it's amazing what something like that can do. Obviously, people knew it was coming, but to get someone like that in, Stephen McDonald, really stop saying that, Stephen O'Donnell, and you know, like it's not your normal appointment. It's a club legend. It's a captain. Numerous titles, you know, probably learned his trade under Kenny. More the coaching end probably picked it up off Stephen Kenny. It's ideal. It's an ideal scenario for the new owners as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, as you say there, Gally, there's been very little by way of news, which is rare for the Dock FC over the last 6-7 months. You know, there's been very little news coming out. And this is obviously taking a little bit of time. We've known, as you say, for 2 weeks that this was happening, or this was going to happen, and then I think, you know, St. Pat's have thrown a spanner in the works, which they feel they're entitled to in delaying this, you know. But I would expect that we're going to see some movement on players within the next 2 weeks in the run up to Christmas. I'd say there's probably going to be a lot of players hopefully coming down the M1, a lot of players staying put. But I'd be expecting, you know, there might even be stuff over the next 24 hours for all we know. But yeah, it's been great. I just see someone saying there, you know, credit to Martin. I texted Martin before we went on air just to congratulate him on it finally being done. And I don't want to quote Martin, but you know, one thing that he kind of referenced in the text exchange was
podcast.
The podcast is great, and make sure don't hammer me the way that you lads hammered some of the former coaches, managers, former owners of the club. But no, he was just saying, you know, the decisions they're trying to make are for the best of Dundalk Football Club. You know, it's not for anybody else, for the best of Dundalk Football Club. These things take time, and you know, some of the decisions they're making are tough decisions, and so, but they're all for the benefit of the football club. But I think, you know, what I kind of gather from what Martin was saying is the decision with Stevie O'Donnell could have been made 2 weeks ago, you know, or could have been made 2 weeks ago, and then we find ourselves in a shit full of litigation, you know. So it's taken that little bit of time, and it's frustrating probably as a Dundalk fan, because we've been used to over the last 12 months, as I say, of news, good, bad, or indifferent, coming out before it's official. So the fact that nothing's been done, it's refreshing in a way. As frustrating as it is, it's refreshing that we're waiting until things are finally in the clear, you know, that they can actually put them out.
Yeah, and given the season we've had as well, it's a massive coup for the club. I mean, we spoke about different managers, endless amounts of, who we get in and would you Vinny and all this kind of crack all season. But even though we talked about it off air and in our chats, Steve's name came up, but we never really thought that we'd get someone like Stephen O'Donnell, simply because of the run he's had with Pats and the season we've had. Like, for the lads to come in and get that, and they've also, they've probably pulled off a masterstroke as well. Something like Dave Mackay, the name that probably wasn't mentioned a couple of weeks ago, but a former player, wealth of experience. You've heard all the names during the week. We've heard of Steve Staunton, we've heard all this stuff and different names and blah, blah, but they've got somebody in now, and somebody's worked alongside Podge Craig that's worked alongside Stevie at Pats as well. It's a massive coup for the club, I think. I know we've won a lot of trophies over the last couple of years. We've been the biggest club in the league over the last decade. But it's a massive statement of intent, I think, going forward, because you've taken someone who's finished so high up the league, won the cup, and we've been able to talk him. I know, fair enough, he's been a club captain before, but plenty of people have probably been club captain and don't feel they have to come back because the job they're doing in their current role is so massive and they're getting somewhere. But for the lads to talk to him, sit him down, it's similar to the Stephen Kenny situation that Andy Connie would have had, nearly a decade ago. They've explained what they want, how they want to go about it. They've laid out the job for him. They've probably let him say, look, this is the project. We want you to oversee it. It's a massive day. It's a massive day. It's to get someone of that caliber in, and the management team with him as well. Like it's been announced there that O'Donnell's the head coach, Dave Mackay's first team manager, and the assistant manager is Podge Craig. So, who do you get in after that? Stevie's got plenty of, mates, strength and conditioning, all this kind of stuff. That'll all look after itself. But it'll be the best of the best going forward now for the Dock, and everybody knows now where to stand. And it's fantastic to be able to mention all the coaches all at the one time as well. We're not waiting for assistants to be appointed and stuff.
I think as well, though, when you think about the season we've just had, and, Gally, you just said, we didn't know what type of a manager we could attract. Let's face it, if Vinny was just leaving, Peak 6 were still here. Like, we wouldn't be looking at this scenario, let's just put it that way, now. But the fact that these guys have come in and maybe in a sec, actually, maybe this is the time to bring it, but Gally, you just said there that the announcement was just made officially there on the website. So I might actually just bring that in. Hopefully this works. Yeah, we got it, lads.
There we go. That Gile looks much better on him than the Pats one.
Yeah. But the one thing that hit me out straight away on it, so Stevie O'Donnell's coach there, not only did I play for Dundalk, but I also lived in the town, and I know the connection there is between the club and the supporters. The mood of the club dictates the mood of the town. Like, that's something we've said all along, and both of you have been on when we've had legends here, and they've always said, I understood how important this club means to the town, and vice versa. So that it's great to see somebody's coming in automatically and gets what the club is about. But what I wanted to just actually mention was there was a quote here from the ownership. Apologies. Here from Sean O'Connor, and he said it's nice to have a blend of youth and experience, which really excites us. And the fact that Stephen and Dave already understand the DNA of Dundalk Football Club. I mean, how important is that for your owners to come out and say? Because I think that was something that we thought was lacking a lot with Peak 6, that they just didn't get exactly what this club was about and how important it is. But now we're talking about, how the club and the community are linked together, and we're trying to bring in management who understand the DNA of this football club. I mean, I think that's nearly night and day in itself, isn't it? Compared to what we've heard over the past year, we didn't know that there was a disconnect between the community. Now we're directly hiring people who understand that link. And I think that can only be good as well, because much like when Stephen Kenny came before, he was selling this atmosphere and everything else that was going to go with Dundalk Football Club. And you feel that when Stephen O'Donnell is going to be talking to players, that's what he's going to be selling. He's going to be selling, if we make this work, guys, this whole town will hold you as legends forever. And there's not too many, there's a few clubs around in this league that really can create an atmosphere and bring a whole town with them, but there's not that many, and I definitely think Dundalk is one of them, and that should be a selling point for him.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. You know, I think we, without saying this in jest, we are a massive club, you know, and that stature's been built over the last 10 years since Stephen Kenny came in. And look, Stevie O'Donnell was a massive part of that. You know, he captained us to Europe. You know, and he's experienced Europe twice. He knows how that feels. And, you know, there is nothing like a Dundalk Football Club. And that's no disrespect to St. Pat's or any other club around. But when you're a provincial town like Dundalk that eats, sleeps and breathes football, it's hard not to get that ingrained into you. And, you know, Stephen Kenny instilled that in his players. And as you say, I'm sure Stevie O'Donnell is going to do the exact same. You know, you've heard over the last week or two when this kind of brewed, like, why would he leave? And some of our own fans have even said it as well on social media and on message boards, like, why would he leave St. Pat's that are on the up to come to Dundalk that's just finished sixth? And it's, when you look at the league table, and if we're being realistic as Dundalk fans, even as exciting as today's news is, you know, Rovers are probably going to be sewn up for the league again. This is just, it's all speculation at the minute. Pats are going to have to compete probably for second place with what looks like a strong Derry City. You expect that probably Sligo's going to compete again. Shells look like they're going to try build something that's going to be competitive. We're going to be competitive. Hopefully now, should he stay at Pats, is he going to do any better than he done this past season? You come to Dundalk, the expectation is probably to be competitive. It's probably going to be to make Europe, which is achievable. So there's a longer term project here to build that success again. You know, it's not going to be just that expectation of you have to win the league season one. You know, and I would feel with Stevie, obviously, you know, with Dave coming in as the pro license holder, Stevie wants to get his pro license. The club have probably sold Stephen O'Donnell a long-term project here as well. This isn't, in my view, just a 1 or 2 season wonder. This could be another Stephen Kenny era in terms of the longevity of the manager. You know, not saying I don't want to put that kind of pressure on him that he's going to have that level of success. It's asking a lot. But, you know, I think there's a long-term project here, and I think the owners, Martin Connolly, with his involvement, they've obviously pinpointed Stephen as someone who's going to hopefully lead that. And I think, you know, we look back and we waxed lyrical, didn't we, on the pod after the Cup semi-final about just how good Pat's played, and with all credit to and the success that Vinny had in his time at Dundalk FC, the style of play that he had was quite a departure from how Stephen Kenny played, you know, that attractive style of football. And I think that night at the semi-final, it just showed, you know, the Pats played such good football. I mean, they tore us to shreds with some of the best defenders in the league that we had. They just tore us to shreds at the back. And if he can bring that style of football, and he can kind of, over the next couple of years, he can start getting us playing that kind of way again, you would be very hopeful that there is success on the horizon in the next couple of years for us.
I think that the thing to think about as well is that Dundalk Football Club is probably back to being an attractive place to come and play football again. I think over the past few years, you think about the amount of 1-year deals that current players took, because let's be honest, like you probably needed a get out clause from this club as well. That if things continue to spiral the way they were going, that you had other options, and that's fair from players. I think now you're probably looking at, you know, we don't know the contract situation, but could we have something where players want to commit long term to this project too? And we're not looking at 1 year with an option. Maybe we could get like a 2 to 3 year contract. And like that's, you look at what Derry have done, and they've offered longer contracts on less money. For me, that's probably the way the whole league should be going. Perhaps we inflated wages slightly at times under the Peak Six regime, short-term but high-paying gigs. It's not really the way to go in this league, because at the end of the season, you're back to trying to get these guys, and you've already probably maxed out your budget for paying them, so you can't offer any more of a loyalty reward to stay on, because you'd be talking astronomical money at that stage. Your point on Vinny, yeah, look, it's interesting. I think think you're right. I think the Pats team we came up against, is it this year still or last season? I'm not too sure. It's this middle zone. I don't know what
it's a new season now. Last season,
right.
Chris.
So that's last season. Yeah, it's they played in a real attractive style of football. You look at players like the likes of Forrester coming back and people wondered, he kind of didn't look like he was coming back to any of his best when he left the League of Ireland originally, but he seemed to come back now a different player, and whether that's got to do with the management structure that was there for him, we don't know. But if he can get that sort of player playing to those high levels again, it's only from a player looking on to would I get involved with Dundalk Football Club now? You'd probably say, yeah, this, you can see that this management structure has the potential to get the best out of me. And look, we could say what you want about Vinny, but he was just to kick a ball away from a clean slate originally. Yeah. And I think a lot of what happened to him was influenced from up a high too.
Yeah.
And I think that's the benefit of Stephen coming in now as well. It's a clean slate all round, isn't it? And I think that's good for the club too.
Yeah, it's a clean slate. It's also the connection that we go back to the Kenny era. That connection with O'Donnell. So O'Donnell knows the lads already, knows Martin Connolly, knows Andy Connolly, and that's it's almost a perfect combination. Now, we don't want to sit here in 6 months and go, Jesus, this podcast was us talking perfect combination, and the results are an absolute show. But you know what? It was the perfect job. It was the perfect man at the right time for the job. And we're talking about contracts. One or two players, we don't know. One or two players might have debated leaving Dundalk, but then when someone like Stephen gets mentioned, it changes completely. Now, obviously, we've Cameron Duncan who went in the week. But what Derry have done is Derry have gotten right. Who's the man? Who's the most connected man in the league for our club? And Rory Higgins was that perfect fit. We were jealous of Rory Higgins. Rory Higgins would never have taken the Dundalk job over the Derry job. And it's a similar situation to this. Would Stephen O'Donnell have left Pats for any other team in the country? I don't think so. I mean, I really don't. I know he's played for Rovers, but he doesn't have that affiliation with them. People almost forget he played for Shamrock Rovers.
I had a look down through just even some of his playing stats, and he would have done an average of maybe 40 to 50 appearances for most clubs. Yeah. It was 111 appearances for Dundalk. So
yeah.
I think that kind of
different scale. Yeah,
sums up that he had his best football, his longest football, probably with us. And like you say, that's probably the real crux of why he would come back, because thankfully we had players like him during that time as well, and if they can instill any of that DNA, I think we'd be doing well.
Yeah, and it's like, if you think of it like poker, Derry have played on hand with Higgins and that connection, and we've now matched it. We've now said, right, well, we've go and get our version of it, and that would be Stephen O'Donnell. So it's ideal. I mean, like, I'm looking forward to seeing who we sign. Like, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, not to go back to Pats, and not that there'll be any of their fans listening to this, but well, maybe there will be. Maybe there will be for today. But coming to the end of the season, Stephen's obviously got a short list of players that he would have taken to Pats, and from all over the league having a look. Now that short list surely now follows him to Oriel Park, so we hopefully get the benefit of the way he plays and the players he wanted to fit in to that mold, and hopefully it's not we're 2 weeks probably out of a lot of players have signed for different clubs, a lot of players have gone, but I'd like to think that with the nucleus of the squad we had from last season, we'll hopefully be able to keep most of them. Not to name drop players, but players like Sean Murray, they're players you'd like to keep at the club. And there's a couple of players knocking around Slogan and stuff like that haven't really gone anywhere yet, and you'd like to keep them. Darrell Lee's another one. We've also signed Keith Ward during the week, apparently. So these are all players that obviously fit this idea that he has for the club. And I don't think it'll be too long. I think most of our major business could be done before Christmas. You'd like to just see this follow suit over the next couple of days, and we just have a Sean Connor situation where there's 45 players being signed at the one time, but most of them got talent. But look, that's what we're looking for the next couple of weeks. And look, it changed everybody's perception. It puts people in good form into Christmas, and we've been waiting for this day for a couple of years. But I think that going back to what you said, Chris, it's getting someone in with Stephen's character and that history with the club, and not that other managers couldn't have had a big impact coming in after peak six, but I think it's for the lads, for the new owners, they really couldn't have done any better. Like, it's an ideal scenario for everybody.
Yeah, I think you were just saying, obviously, Gally, about there's going to be that short list of players now, isn't there? You know, and everybody's going to be looking at the players that aren't re-signed with Pats for next year, and are they going to come down the road? I mean, we already heard over the last week that, you know, Robbie Benson, Mountney, Paddy Barrett, you know, all the former Dundalk players are going to come back. I just see Anne Marina said Matty Smith, who I'd love to get him, especially after that cup semi-final. I just thought he was class that night. But I mean, you know, for me, if there's word going around that Cleary might be moving over to Scotland. I mean, again, I know I keep harping back to that semi-final, but it seems like at the back, you know, Paddy Barrett is a player that he left us without really, you know, he kind of usurped Garth for a little bit during his last few months with us, but he never really got going, you know, because Garth and Andy Boyle were just so good at the back, and he never got going with us. Went out to America. It seems to have done him wonders, and I mean, he was an integral part of the success that Pats had last year. And for me, if he's available and he's willing to follow Stevie, I mean, he would be top of my list. Because, you know, we don't know obviously what's happening with Garth's situation. Is he going to re-sign? Which, I mean, I hope he will. But if Cleary's gone, Big Sonny's gone, which is going to be a massive hole to fill, you know, because of his outstanding performances last season. But for me, obviously, like top of the list, you know, before we even look further down the line, you'd have to hope maybe Paddy Barrett's going to be top of Stevie's list. On top of a goalie, I don't know if Liverpool want to send that goalie on loan back to Ireland for another year. They might do, and hopefully he'll follow him as well. You know, just anyone who's available from Pats who finished second, just send them down to Oriel Park.
Just give us a shout. Any of the fans want to swap over.
Yeah, send them all. Straight down the road, like.
But you've hit the even just the player there, the goalkeeper. Like, you know, there's no reason why I don't see him going. He's not going to get a run at Liverpool. I don't see him going anywhere. You know, League 2 maybe, League 1. So why not come back to Dundalk? Why not? Like, you know, and he knows Stephen well, he knows Podge Craig. So why not? Why not come back and have a run? Now, we're not saying we don't know. I mean, you know, Peter Cherry's there as well. We don't know what's going to happen, but you know, it's not beyond, you know, reasonable doubt that we could get someone like that in. You know, that guy's at a crack. I remember actually talking about him. He was on a podcast before the season even started, Stephen, and he was on Alan Collins. I was talking about this goalkeeper, and it just goes to show, he's obviously spotted a bit of talent, and he's been outstanding all season. So, you know, I won't say the sky's the limit, but I mean, I really think we're going to get good quality footballers in here. And like you say, Chris, with the wages, you know, the talk during the season of all these high wages, if you leave Dundalk at any stage of the season, you're automatically on lower wages because the wages are so bloody high at this club, apparently. You know, so
yeah,
it's an ideal scenario to have a 2-year contract and a decent wage. You know, lads can plan out mortgages, blah, blah, blah. I'm only disappointed that Dane Massey re-signed for Drogheda this week. There was lots of rumours that he might come back, so it broke my heart again. But look, it's you know, it's exciting times. I mean, like, I know we probably sat here a year ago and said the same thing. We won the President's Cup on our first podcast, but there's a different buzz now. There's a different buzz. You know, it sets everybody up for the weekend. You know, what more could you want? You know, I can't think of anybody else that could have come into the job. You know, I really can't, even now off the spot. Like, I mean, with the exception of maybe a Dave Rogers. So we had Dave on the show. I know Steph's a massive fan. I didn't know a lot about Dave, but when he was on the podcast with us, it was exceptional. But there's nobody really that could have come in apart from going from Stephen Kenny again. It's a cracking appointment, and we've pulled off. I think we pulled off a masterstroke. I don't know what it's cost us, but you know, be grand.
It's funny though. Like there's so much talk then of, you know, can we get the likes of, I think Brian McCardle had it up there, you know, Hubin, Murray, Leahy, Sloggett. Like, there's a great spine of a squad already if you could turn these guys to stay at the club. You know, Hubin's got that record goal scorer accolade just sitting there in front of him. So could that be enough to keep him, especially now when you think about an exciting management team he might have? And then, you know, you've already mentioned the likes of, you know, a Paddy Barrett, would Benson come back again? You know, we would never even been contemplating a lot of this, lads, at the end of the year. So it's a complete 360 from where we were. Just before coming on, I had a look at Stephen O'Donnell's track record as manager at Pats. So when he took over in 2019, he's been in charge of 70 games, of which he's won 33, drawn 7, lost only 20, which gave him a win percentage record of 47.14. I don't think there's too many other managers in the league who have that sort of a record too. And you think about where he started with that Pats team to where he had them last year. You could really see how he had them playing a style of football. And I think these are things that probably over the past few years that we've lost. In particular, from when Stephen Kenny left, we had a certain way of playing football, and that kind of seemed to be to dilute somewhat. I think after his reign, so I think you're probably getting someone back now who has their way of playing, and looking at his previous management experience, if someone can win nearly half their games, lads, that's exceptional.
Yeah, and I think I think a message for the Dog fans, not to be raining on the parade today, that's all good, but I think this is going to take a little bit of time as well, because even if he's bringing back in former players, or if he brings in new players, this is a new regime, this is a new squad, so it's going to take a little bit of time. I mean, wishful thinking, it could end up like Stephen's first year here, where we were going nowhere for a long time, but then the second half of the season, you just seen this glimmer of, all right, this is how he wants to play. This is the style of football. But I think we said it earlier in the season. It might even be, I don't want to refer back to that cup semi-final again, but Pats, in my view, were the best football inside in the league this year. They play better football than the Shamrock Rovers. They just maybe were lacking the quality that a Rovers have across the pitch, and the quality coming off the bench.
The depth and squad as well, yeah.
Exactly, so I think that's one thing that we're definitely getting, is we are getting that a manager that wants to play that quality football, and that just comes from the DNA of where he's come from, coming from that success with Dundalk. And it's just, look, it's a good time, isn't it? It's exciting again, and that's what we were saying, like coming up to Christmas, we haven't had that, for 5-6 years we haven't had this kind of level of excitement, and it's nice to have it back, isn't it?
Yeah, and the best thing is it's not halfway through a season either, so he has time now to implement everything he wants right ahead of pre-season, and we'll probably get barring any mad COVID, we'll get a proper pre-season in this year as well. So it's ideal. It's the shop opening as well. It's perfect timing. Look at people are, there's not. On the flip side, that we don't have a jersey yet. So if anybody knows any updates on a jersey, it's shocking not to have a jersey before Christmas. But I say it's for the kids. It's not. It's for me. And but it's ideal. It's ideal. We couldn't have scripted it better. I know it's been hassle. It's been frustrating, and I'm sure Pats fans are livid. But on the flip, look, they've got a cracking coaching as well. I mean, in a funny way, if Stephen O'Donnell stays at Pats, we probably get Tim Clancy. So we still get that football brain to play the same kind of way, same kind of tempo. But I think it's win-win for everybody. It's Pats are obviously frustrated. They've won a cup, they've lost a manager, but like I said, I don't think there was any other club in the league it came knocking, he wouldn't have went. And Pats fans know that. They know League of Ireland. Proper fans know that it was always going to be that call for him. And it's pity for them, but it's fantastic for us.
Yeah. Well, look, lads, I don't want to keep you too much longer. Before we go, seeing as it's the run up to Christmas, I'm writing me letter to Santi today. So I just want to know, lads, what's on your Christmas list for this season from a Dundalk FC point of view. We'll go to you first,
put us on the spot now.
I think Christmas just came early today, though. So I think if we could just, like we just mentioned there now, a good spine to this team, players who want to come back in here. I'd love, like we've already mentioned, 3-4 players there already, the Hubin, Murray, Leahy, Sloggets. I think if we get them nailed down and start putting then a stamp for who Stevie wants around the club with those sort of players, if we nab someone, lads, like a Paddy Barrett, I just think it would be a real statement to the league of, we're back and we're playing serious football here. And I just think it would turn maybe a couple of other people's heads if there was an offer there from Stephen for them. So I think a real marquee signing like that would be good.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Chris.
Yeah, it's and not to echo that in an ideal scenario, you want you know, you love to have a situation where you have maybe 14, 15 top players, and then it's supplemented with an academy, and like good quality academy, similar to what Bowes had when Keith Long took over and they changed the way it was done down there. But yeah, like goalkeeper, centre half, midfield, the spine, it's got to be nailed on, and I think it will be. I really do. I think O'Donnell now can attract the players, and not being disingenuous to Vinny Perrott. He can probably attract the players that Vinny might have been able to. You know, I think O'Donnell would have that pedigree in the league, and I think people will just want to play for him. And like we've lined up, like the management team alone, Dave McKay's got great knowledge of the game, youth football. You know, O'Donnell and Craig have worked together, played together for years as well. You know, they've known each other since we're kids. I was reading up on them a couple of weeks ago on an article, and you know, once they get, we don't necessarily have to go back for all these players that we used to have. I know people are talking about, they're getting the band back together, Benson, blah blah blah. But Benson is still the best at what he does. So rightly so, you have to go for him, because if he's available to sign, then it's not a matter of taking him back in. He is the best at what he does. Like moving with a ball at his feet, there is nobody better than Robbie Benson in the league, in my opinion. Just bulldozing through players. I think he's a quality footballer. I think we've missed one or two. You know, I think young, like, you know, not to harp on, but, you know, players like that have left Derry gone to Sligo, Will Fitzpatrick, and he's a quality footballer. He never really got a massive run at it, but I think we've missed the boat on players like that. But, you know, just, you know, if we can get good quality signings, and we have them at the club, like, you know, we've got players who are out of contract that we thought we were losing and are still there and can still go and win a league. So, you know, provided we can get them over the line with a few qualities from well, I hate to say it, but from Pats, like Paddy Barrett's a different animal, and he can play CDM if needed as well. So for me, he's a no-brainer. He'd be a similar to a Sean Hall that we lost last season. So yeah, look, once we can get one or two top quality, you know, we don't want all youngsters, but I think the goalkeeper, you mentioned the goalkeeper from Liverpool, Pingo, I'd have him in a heartbeat, because I think he knows the league now. So why not? If he's not going to play over there, I'll bring him back.
Gally, I think you're being a bit unrealistic there with your Santi list there. I thought you were just looking for a jersey.
Yeah, well, just get a jersey. And if they have a jersey, that'd be great. Yeah. Just reprint the Shelburne one. That's a great one.
It is a nice one, yeah. Well, yeah, I think my list is just a job. If anyone at the Dundalk FC is listening in and you want to hire me back, I'm all for bringing the band back together. I'll come back once I get my citizenship this year. I'll come back, no bother. So, no, well, look, we leave it there on a good note. Stevie's back. We'll be back hopefully in the new year. We're not going to do this every player signing, but hopefully we'll be back in the new year during the start of pre-season. And thanks everybody for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and hopefully there's more good news to come over the coming days. Cheers, lads.
See you soon.